Hello and welcome everyone to the Marr Show. If you've been watching my series for a long time, you know I have mentioned a couple of Looney Tunes games here and there, such as Duck Dodgers starring Daffy Duck for the Nintendo 64, Taz Wanted for the original Xbox, and then not too long ago, seriously like only 3 episodes ago, I did Looney Tunes Back in Action for the original PlayStation 2. And as I was doing the video, editing the clips and everything, I started thinking about this other Looney Tunes game that I actually did mention in Looney Tunes Back in Action. I mentioned this game and then also I remember how much fun I had as a kid. I loved this game and I was itching to play it, and today I got to. So on this episode of the Marr Show, we're going to be taking a look at Looney Tunes Space Race for the PlayStation 2. There is one funny connection I have to say that I just realized with Looney Tunes Space Race. It was developed by Infogrames Entertainment, who did countless other Looney Tunes games. I mean, they did a ton of Looney Tunes based games, especially some that I actually did with you on the show, like Duck Dodgers 64 and Taz Wanted. Both were developed by Infogrames, and heck, even the classic Bugs Bunny Lost in Time was developed by them. Originally, the game was gonna be released on the Nintendo 64 before moving over to the Dreamcast and then later on to the PlayStation 2. I do want to mention one thing about the game that I find odd. Not the game itself, but the box art for the Dreamcast and PS2. Here's the box art for the Dreamcast. You know, it's got classic Looney Tunes packaging with Daffy on the little spaceship and all that. And then you got this weird, it's not like a bad cover, but you have Bugs, Daffy, and Wily in these space suits, which, by the way, you do not see in the game. And I guess it's kind of looks more extreme looking, like the packaging and stuff, even the text with the speed is not your only weapon. It sounds like they were trying to make it more extreme, I guess. I'm not really sure. It has a simple premise. Foghorn Leghorn is hosting the Looney Tunes Space Race with Lola Bunny reporting down to the tracks. In the game, you play as 9 different characters. 3 of them you unlock as you play through the tournament mode. You got your classic characters like Bugs, Daffy, Marvin, but one of the more odder characters to be in the race is just a Martian known as the King of Instant Martians. I'm not against having the King of Instant Martians as a racer. It just seems kind of odd compared to if you only have 9 characters, you will want to have all the classic Looney Tunes characters. Maybe you might want to have Speedy Gonzales or even Foghorn be a racer, but no, you got the King of Instant Martians. It's very odd. However, there's one thing I remember that drove me crazy with this game. In the game, you actually see Granny and Taz participate in tournament mode, and also you can unlock animations for those 2 as well. But one thing that drove me crazy was the fact that they appear in the tournament mode as well as unlocking the animation display. You don't actually play as Taz or Granny, and this drove me insane as a kid. I tried everything, figured out how to unlock these 2. And keep in mind, this was where I did not have internet at my trailer home at the time, and it just drove me mad trying to figure out how to play these 2, and yet you can't. It's kind of sad a little bit, but again, that was just me. I remember being really diving into trying to unlock, even to the point where almost breaking the game or trying to hack the game a bit. I'm not sure. As for the race tracks, in total there are only 14 tracks. Doesn't sound too bad, though the beginning default tracks has an extra variant version leading only to 8 original worlds. Kind of lackluster a little bit, but the tracks themselves have a lot of fun little stuff going on. It's bright, colorful. Sometimes the tracks can be pretty long and others they can be pretty short, but has a lot of visual gags that if you're just driving around doing a time trial or just racing, you'll catch a few small little gags, mostly with the Martians. And the animations themselves look great. Then again, Infogrames always do a fantastic job of bringing these classic characters to life in video games. And controller-wise, the game plays extremely well. Every character has their own weight, and you feel, even though it doesn't feel like they have like different stats, each character has a nice weight that you can feel, and just, it's always fun. And I also love the look of the vehicles they drive, especially Wile E. Coyote, who just uses a rocket as his vehicle. It's pretty clever, especially for a space race. But I guess one thing that is kind of odd is that there's no drifting in the game. In fact, turning, if you're like making very tight turns at high speed, you'll most likely fall off. Takes a little bit of time to get used to, but overall, not that bad, and I love the physics and weight of the characters. It just works extremely well for a racing game. All the items in the game are Acme gag boxes, and there are several Acme props you can use, such as boxing gloves, remote buttons that you can press to bring down elephants or anvils to land on a player ahead of you, and then those laser Yeah, the laser blasters, I will admit, are pretty OP. They really lock onto your target. Aside from Acme gag boxes, there are also gas bells as well. When you hit 5 gas bells, you could do a turbo boost, which comes extremely handy in terms of trying to race up against other players. It has everything like a regular racer should, time trials and multiplayer, as well as a tournament mode. And tournament mode is my favorite part of Space Race, and this is the part where I spend way so much time and remember it being pretty difficult to master a little bit as a kid. Now it was actually easy, although there was many times, especially with the Acme item boxes, where the game gets really fun and addicting and kind of challenging at times. Yeah, some of the tournaments are regular races where you go around the track 3 times and you win, but there are also Acme events which are really fun and crazy. And these Acme events in these tournament modes can vary. Like sometimes you might have one race where all the items are boxing gloves, or one race where you have infinite gas bells where you can just go turbo boost all over the track, though you will fall off, especially in very short cuts. But then there are extreme crazy races, such as black holes appearing all over the track, and if you fall, well, yeah, you're stuck. Also, there's one match where there's anvils falling all over the sky. That part really drove me crazy. It was actually kind of tough playing that particular race when I was replaying it. And then one of my favorite races is actually very fun to do. In this one race, if you're like, say, if you're 4th place and there are only 4 races, you drop out of the race and then you just continue to the next cup. It actually is very challenging to try to stay ahead and not be the last person behind and get dropped out. So when the person who's in 6th place is dropped out, there are only 5 races, and you don't want to be in 5th place or else you'll get dropped out. It gets really crazy. And this little tournament actually thought of a brand new gameplay mechanic I would love to see in Mario Kart, a crazy tournament mode. I know technically if you're just wanting to play the game by yourself, you can set it to you have certain items going on, Pacific race speed, etc. But I mean crazy mode. Like, I mean stuff like the whole black hole popping up all over or stuff falling from the sky. Make that into a cuckoo crazy mode for Mario Kart. Have like say a chain chomp will be running over the track and will knock the player out. Or that gameplay idea where if you're the last person behind, you drop out. I would love to see a crazy tournament mode in Mario Kart. Not just in multiplayer, but in the single player campaign where you're playing the 50cc or mill mode. Or better yet, just have a whole crazy cuckoo mode, make it like 150cc speed, and just have these crazy events going on with like the chain chomps walking over for the track, or falling blue shells coming from the sky, kamikaze, or it would be a fun idea I would love to see to be implemented in Mario Kart that I got out of from this game, as it's really fun. However, my favorite part about this game by far is the music. It is so good. The music in this game, well, there's not a whole lot, sounds so amazing in this game, and I'm surprised no one even mentions the soundtrack to Space Race. So upbeat and peppy, but also thrills you to be excited to race around the track at high speed. It sounds so good. Heck, most of the music that I played throughout this entire video came from this game, and it just sounds so great. I absolutely love it. And there's a lot of great stuff to love about Space Race, though there is one minor issue and one big issue I do have with this game. For one, there are a few minor glitches and frame rate issues I had when playing it. Sometimes when you start up the race, the frame rate can go really slow, and there's a few glitches that actually let me kind of confused, such as characters that drift outward and just appear out of nowhere. It's not anything that alarms you in which the game is gonna crash, but it's something that I did notice happened a little bit. It didn't ruin the experience, but it did kind of ruin me a little bit to like if the game was freezing, especially since Blue Disc games for PlayStation 2 do have a little issue. I don't know why. Every time I have a Blue Disc game, it sometimes acts up a bit. And it's not just with my current PS2, but when I had like my previous PS2 models, I don't know, it's something with the blue disc PS2 games that always scares me a bit. But then there's one major flaw or thing I just don't really like about the game. And it's not the developer's fault or anything, but how do I explain this? Okay, I know. Have you ever played a game, like way back from your childhood, like when you were a kid, that you played this game that you absolutely loved, you remember it being difficult, but you spent so much time on this game, probably like a good 8 hours or even weeks playing, and then you go back to playing that game years and years later, like 10, 15 years later, you decide to replay it, and you discover that the game is extremely short. This is one of those games. It's just very short. And I remember spending long, and I mean long hours playing through one tournament mode being extremely rough. And I was able to beat the game in like 3 hours, not counting the time of looking at the blueprints and animations and unlocking. It was pretty short and easy, even though there were times like in some of the Acme events where the anvils were falling or when you're last place and you have to restart. It was short, very. Heck, in content the game is short. Yeah, you got multiplayer, but with only 14 tracks, 8 of them being originals and the rest being just variations of existing tracks, and 9 races, which keep in mind, in Looney Tunes Racing had 19 races and a lot more variety of classic characters. And by the time I was done with the last race, unlocked the movie clip and got everything done, I was wanting more. I wanted more crazy tournament modes, more stuff to unlock, and being able to get it all unlocked in 3 hours, it just left me kind of empty-handed. It's like, that's it? I want more! I want more! Please, sir, could I have some more? But despite the short content within Space Race, it still holds up extremely well. It plays super great. I love the crazy antic Acme events, which I would love to see a cuckoo crazy mode in Mario Kart. I'm being serious, that would be amazing. The amazing music, like I'm surprised no one talks about the music from this game. And it's just a good game, it really is. Regardless if it's shorter content and has a few minor graphical glitches and frame rate issues, whatever, it's still such a good race. I absolutely loved it. I would love to see this concept come back with, imagine more newer tracks. With the technology, you could create more elaborate, more creative tracks, add a lot more characters, just have more content, and it would just be fantastic. So I would love to see this idea return. If that would happen, I doubt it, but I would love to. We can all dream, can't we? And that's all the time we have for today, folks. So if you would like to leave your thoughts on today's game, just comment below. And if you want to get Space Race, it's very easy to find, very cheap for both Dreamcast and PlayStation 2. I do recommend it. And hey, if you want to take a look at any other Looney Tunes game like Acme Arsenal, Bugs Bunny Lost in Time, or any other, let me know. I'll be happy to. I love Looney Tunes games, and I've actually been really happy going back to replaying some of the old games I used to play back in the day. It's just so much fun to revisit, even though sometimes it can be disheartening when you realize you remember spending so much time on the game, and then replaying it, you got good, and you beat the game quicker than you remembered. It's kind of funny how life works a bit. But anyway, thank you guys for watching this video. God bless yous, and I will see you all in the next Marr Show episode. Bye bye!